So on the spec sheet alone, the Lenovo K3 Note is an incredibly appealing device. It comes in at the very entry level point of the Android market, at the sort of similar price level to something like the Moto G, just above the Moto E, and it's coming in with an octa-core 1.7 GHz Cortex A53 CPU, a next-gen GPU, 2GB of RAM, and a 1080p 5.5-inch IPS display. To start with, I love the design. I mean, the back is a beautiful matte finish. It's got a kind of almost pearlescent sort of sheen to it. It's very, very nice to look at, and you can only really see it in person. The actual ports are exactly as you would expect. A little bit weird that the micro USB is right on top, but you get used to that very easily. It doesn't really take anything away, it doesn't really add anything. Now this thing actually surprisingly also has a removable back, even though it initially gives the impression that it doesn't. Lenovo has managed to create a body that feels like it's a uni body, but actually has the benefits of a removable back. We have a 5 megapixel front camera and a 13 megapixel rear, both of which promise seriously high-end performance. We also have a two-tone dual flash. So far, really impressive. The device is fairly thin, not exactly coming in at the sort of extreme end of the market, but it's slimmer than average and it feels very comfortable in the hand. The phone is slightly curved at the back, and so a bit like the LG G3, it just kind of slips into your palm. The packaging was great, I was impressed. It comes with a screen protector, a case, a plug, and an adapter. Pretty nice. The combination of the modern, refined design, large screen size, and high screen to bezel ratio make this look and feel like a flagship. So now, let's talk about the features of the K3 Note. Upon turning on the device, you're going to be greeted by a gorgeous 1080p IPS panel, and it is beautiful. The colours are rich, the saturation is high, it's extremely sharp, and I have to say this is one of the best mobile displays I've ever seen. It's not 2K, but honestly I appreciate that. I actually think that's going to benefit the device, it's not going to slow performance, and it's going to keep battery life on point. Dominating the front of the phone, the screen is a real highlight here. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now the camera I was extremely impressed by. Being 13 megapixels, it kind of sits in the middle of the boat of today's flagships, and it captures glorious details. I mean, this is literally, zooming in all the way, no flash used. In sort of middle lighting, you're capturing SLR quality photos. There's also an HDR mode, which also works fantastically well. It takes very little time to process, although a little bit more than the standard shot, but you're getting huge amounts of detail and color in here. So as you can see in dark environments, the flash is actually very bright and brings out the true colour of the object you're trying to capture. However, it does sometimes overexpose and maybe washes out the background. But in low light, even without the flash, you'll be surprised at the detail you can capture. It really is something to behold. The camera is really good on this device. Now, the speakers. Capturing plenty of detail, having a decent amount of bass, these are about 90% as loud as my Vivo X-Shot speakers, and that is a phone with a specialist in hi-fi, so this is also pretty nice. So the internet browsing is extremely quick. I mean, I was surprised by how smooth the transitions were, how quickly the web page was loading, even with ultra-high resolution pictures and images. A website like Apple's, very demanding, but also very optimized, was going extremely well. On top of Android 5.0, Lenovo has actually got a skin of its own on here, and it actually reminds me a lot of MIUI. There's no app drawer, every single one of your apps just sits in the home screen, similar to an Apple phone, but I have to say it works. I mean, after you get used to it, it's quite nice. If you really decide you hate it, then you could always just switch to something like Nova Launcher and just customize your own way. Now the updates are coming very regularly. I've already had 3 for the device and I've only owned it for about 2 weeks. It's really great that Lenovo is trying to strengthen its brand here by providing consistent updates and making sure that your device is always ahead of the pack. To be honest, I actually really like the skin on here. It's clean, it's minimalist, it's colourful, and it's playful. It's just quite a nice thing to use. So swiping down from the top, we have Max Audio. This is a built-in amplifying technology which actually improves the sound of your phone. Coming through the speakers and the headphones, it's supposed to increase fidelity, detail, and soundstage. I have to say it makes some difference, although not exactly groundbreaking. It's just a software algorithm. The dial pad is nice, easy to read numbers, it's fast to type, and you can just tell what's going on. Now the battery, rated at 3000 mAh, is extremely good. Being a very efficient processor, newer software, this thing is actually going to last at least a day and a half on an average usage. So the lock screen has some nice little features. You can swipe from the left to open up the dialer and the right to open up the camera. The features on this device are all round outstanding. So now we're going to take a look at performance, and this device in day-to-day use is extremely nippy. There's not one single lag when using the actual UI of the system. Intensive 3D games like Implosion are still running incredibly well. This is running at a smooth 30 frames per second, which is actually the cap. The game can't run at 60, but I get the feeling that even if it could, this phone would probably push it. So yeah, you actually never really get the feeling that this is not a flagship device. Throughout the whole usage, you throw anything at it, whether it's Modern Combat, whether it's Nova, whether it's Implosion, it seems to just destroy it. Now another example is Cat Simulator. Although being an absolutely terrible game, I definitely recommend you don't download it. It's actually fairly graphically impressive with shadows, loads of objects, and just free roaming. That also runs fine. You know, games which are obviously then 2D or 2.5D are no struggle whatsoever. Even first-person shooters like Brits Brigade and, the Respawnables, they're also working absolutely perfectly. The games look great, they perform great, and they sound great. It's just a ultimate experience, really. And then we go to Antutu, and the phone scores over 45,000. This is meant to be an entry-level device, and it's beat out every single flagship from last year. The only things that it's losing to are the Nexus 6, the Note 4, and, devices packing the Snapdragon 805 or higher processor. I mean, this is extremely, extremely powerful. This is right at the top of the charts. This is going to be competing pretty safely alongside phones like the HTC One M9, the Samsung Galaxy S7, and the likes of the LG G4. Frankly guys, I'm blown away by the Lenovo K3 Note. I was impressed initially by its strong build, its large capacity battery, its great buttons, its great aesthetic, and its included accessories. But the more I began to use the device, the more and more impressed I became. Its speakers are very solid, its camera is fantastic, and the microphone audio quality are also excellent. It also has dual SIM functionality, which beats out almost every single Western phone. It has SD card capacity, so you can stick in up to 64GB more, and it has a seriously fast processor. The gaming, it just chews through it, playing all the latest titles at the highest frame rates and looking glorious. The screen is easy to read, colourful and sharp, and overall I have to say the experience of using this phone is unrivaled. Thanks for watching guys.